So I'm here to talk to you today about rethinking supply security from a producer perspective. One of the interesting things that I've noted today is that there's one word that we have been missing from the vocabulary from all the conversations this morning, and that's Canada. I haven't heard it yet, and I just want to talk about what we're up to from the perspective of one of the larger trading partners, and one of the reasons that we're down here. Why would a Canadian resource company come to the SAFE conference? And that is that we get caught up, no matter what we do, in the critical minerals supply chain, and therefore into the geopolitics of securing domestic supply. And so I just wanted to present maybe a little bit of the opportunity that E3 has. So if you look at our resource base, so E3 is a lithium development company based in Alberta. One of the key advantages to E3 is we operate just like an oil and gas company. So we produce a brine just like you would an oil and gas project. And we're in the heartland of Canada's oil fields. In fact, this aquifer was discovered in the 40s by Imperial Oil, ExxonMobil's subsidiary in Canada, and is now out of oil, and we're now producing the water, the formation fluid that aquifer holds that is enriched with lithium. And what is the size of this opportunity? Well, we thought we'd try to find something that made sense from a U.S. perspective and local, and that is pretty much the same size as Delaware, and that's just the resource base that we hold. This is 16 million tons of lithium carbonate equivalent. To put that in perspective, it is 5 times larger than the rest of Canada's resources combined. So the opportunity in Alberta is significant. But what does that mean from the perspective of developing it, getting it producing, and turning it into something that contributes to the global economy and to the geopolitical realm that we're talking about largely today? So a lot of what we've seen over the past little while, and this map is meant to represent just how big the integration is between all of the different partnerships that have been secured over the past little while. So these are just lines representing relationships that have been signed between various different countries, between Canada and the United States, and all of the other sort of friendly nations that we have that are either making batteries or producing products for batteries. And when you look at this, we can break them into sort of 3 categories, and they also break geographically as such. So Australia, exporter of lithium, they're about half of the world's lithium products are coming out of Australia. Most of those were refined in China today. So when we talk, the last couple talks ago, you saw 80% of lithium comes out of China. A lot of those molecules are coming out of Australia, but they're a net exporter. They have very small import. When you look at Europe, the opposite is true. Very few mineral resources in Europe. They are a net importer, but their battery and their EV uptake is much larger than North America. So their demand is greater than the North American demand today. And then there's North America. And one of the key benefits that we have here on this continent is we can be both resilient from a supply and a demand perspective. So we can balance it here in North America. And so when you look at the landscape and what is happening in this world, the attention is on critical minerals. We all understand it. This is not new. This is just some examples of all of the different, just even the past year or so, of announcements from governments and other things on supporting the critical minerals industry. So it's not new that this industry needs support, that we need to be resilient by having our own supply of critical minerals. But what does it actually mean from the perspective of where that capital is going and what we've done? This map represents the battery manufacturing that has been committed to or in operation. So somewhere between planned and actually producing batteries. And you can see that all of the companies that are making batteries are pretty much on this map. We have brought the world to North America to build batteries for the North American supply chain. And one of the key things when you look at this from the perspective of the amount of batteries we're going to produce is that in a couple of years, once all of these get up and running, and we have battery production on scale, and scale means cost efficiencies, which means we'll start to see price parity. We're going to start to see the battery prices come down. We're going to have the massive batteries locally to produce a vehicle that you're going to be able to sell in a competitive nature against a internal combustion engine. The other side, though, of this equation is the critical minerals piece. And in our case, I'm going to focus on lithium because lithium is the critical element in all of these batteries. Even the next generation battery, saw Lighten before me talking about the lithium sulfur. The next generation batteries still require lithium. It is the key ingredient to all of these batteries. The other thing that sets it apart from the rest is that there is no market for it. In the sense that if you want more lithium for your battery factory, that lithium needs to come from new supply, either an expansion of a current operation or a entirely new operation. And so when you look at the global supply and demand, which is the chart on the top, you see that we're roughly in balance into the later part of this decade globally. A lot of that balance is coming out of Chinese supply, so you have to take that into account. But we are generally balanced until we hit this cliff of supply deficit. And then you're going to start seeing issues with battery factories not having enough lithium. The bottom graph talks more about our local North American context, which is that if you want a local supply, if that is what the world is looking for, if that is what North America is looking for, is a local supply, we're in trouble in North America. Because the bottom graph clearly shows, and this is from Benchmark Mineral Intelligence, that we will not keep up to the demand in North America. But we have the opportunity to keep up. And I think this is something that we have to keep in mind. When you look at the map on the right, these are all of the potential lithium projects across North America. One of the things that will stand out to you is those red dots. The red dots are the less developed projects, and the yellow are operating mines. So there are a couple of operating projects in Canada. There are two. They're both spodumene producers. They make the raw material, spodumene concentrate. They do not make battery products. And then there's also an operation in Nevada. The rest of these are up-and-coming projects. So how do we cross that gap? How do we cross the chasm from we have all of these opportunities, but we're still, as you can see the graph, not going to meet the demand based on all these opportunities? And I think that when you look at from the big perspective and you look at what the challenges are and what the opportunities are in terms of where the lithium can come from, where the batteries are being built, where the raw materials, not just lithium, but all of the other materials. If the powers that be, if we, the global we, if you in this room want a domestic supply of lithium, of critical minerals, how do we make that happen? And I think that when you're looking at the ecosystem of support, and we've talked, there was a XM Bank talking this morning from the US, and the Department of Energy is funding. You talk about the Canadian perspective. We're going to hear from Minister Champagne, who I said will be funding $1.5 billion Canadian dollars towards critical minerals. All of that is really important, but the risk perspective of what we're trying to do in minerals needs to be assessed differently. If you're a battery factory and you're talking about the risk of that investment, you're talking about what percentage, as an example, what percentage of scrap batteries you're going to have. So you can assess that risk very easily. Is it 25, 30, 35% scrap in your first year? And then what does that mean for the economics? In the critical minerals industry, the risk assessment is completely different because projects will fail. And that is the inevitability of resource development, is that 2 to 3% of all projects that are found, all mineral deposits that are found, make it to producers. And the challenge there is that it's hard to pick winners. So from the funding ecosystem, the challenge that I put out to the world, to North America, is that if we want to build these critical minerals, if the will is there to have a resilient local supply chain of critical minerals and build the ecosystem all the way to the electric car or whatever application the battery is going into, we need to look at a program that does not pick winners and losers. And so from that perspective, the most important thing for us as the global critical minerals industry is that a good project will float to the top. fundamentally, the mining industry has the ecosystem already built for projects to float to the top. So a levelized support across companies for building building mineral projects starts at a small amount of funding as you grow, increase that funding as projects naturally go through their own triage system as you build a project which is already well established. And so instead of picking winners and losers, you just simply pick a flat funding organization so that by the time you get to a project that's ready to build a critical minerals processing facility, the funding is available for it. Anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.